definitely the Read&Write session for Google Chrome, Microsoft Edge. And we're joined by Emma Dobinson from Everway, who's kindly going to take us through tonight's session. So thank you so much, Emma.
Thank you. Yep, thanks so much for having me on the session today. So far we've covered Read&Write for Windows, and we've also looked at Read&Write for iOS, so that's your iPad solution. So the final platforms we're going to look at today is Read&Write for Google Chrome and Read&Write for Microsoft Edge. So we're going to look today at how we can support every learner with these tools within your browsers. I've got an eye on the chat, so if any questions do come in, I'm going to make some time at the end to cover any questions. But if you think of one as the session's on the go, please feel free to pop it in the chat and I'll come to it at the end if that is okay. And if at any point you can't see what's on my screen, then just pop it in the chat and give me a shout. Okay. You'll get a copy of the slides from the session. It's got my contact details in there. I am I'm customer success specialist at Everway, but I'm the account manager for the council. So if you do need anything at all when it comes to Read&Write, then please feel free to drop me an email, reach out, and I'll be more than happy to help. So the agenda for today, we're going to do a bit of an introduction to Read&Write for Google Chrome, and we'll talk a bit about Microsoft Edge. And we're going to demonstrate some of the key features that are going to support inclusion within your classroom. As we explore these tools, we will be looking at the customizable settings. It's going to allow you to really tailor this to the needs of your learners in your class. And we'll have some time for questions and answers at the end. So here at Everway, our mission is to help everyone understand and be understood. Our Read&Write software has been designed to help level the playing field in the classroom, opening up the curriculum and providing that equity to all. We know that everyone learns differently, and when inclusion is done right, all students benefit. One thing we know about teachers is teachers are fantastic at creating inclusive environments, and we also know that you're only one person in the classroom, and it can be it's getting more and more difficult to meet all of the needs in the classroom. So we're going to look today at how we can leverage the Read&Write software to help extend your reach and support as many learners in the class as we possibly can. So this is our Read&Write toolbar here. We're obviously going to see it in action today, but it's included in this slide. Read&Write has been designed to help every student read, write and sit exams with confidence. So Read&Write is going to provide your learners with 20 different literacy support tools, all built into the one toolbar. These have been designed to help schools deliver inclusion and meet that diversity of need within the classroom. I come from a primary teaching background myself, and one thing I loved about using Read&Write with my classes was that I could be confident that whatever lesson I was putting forward to my learners, I knew that the children could interact with the scaffolds they needed in the moment in response to the content I gave them. So once I knew my pupils were confident, I knew that we could adapt in the moment and ensure they could engage with the supports they needed to ensure that they were just as included as the rest of their peers. One thing we do say about Read&Write is that it's necessary for some, but useful for all. So we do truly believe there's a tool within Read&Write for every single learner, but in saying this, it is particularly useful for supporting learners with additional support needs, including your students who do have English as an additional language. And we'll cover some of that today. Here's a bit of an overview of the features that are all packed into this amazing inclusive toolbar. So we've got digital coloured overlays in the form of our screen masking tool. We've got inbuilt dictionary tools for inclusive vocabulary support. We've got translation, we've got text to speech, we've got highlighting tools, speech dictation software. We've got some specific web tools that we're going to have a look at, and some supportive study tools as well. So a whole host. We'll cover as many as we can today, but I'm going to give you some follow-up resources as well that will look at any tools that I don't manage to cover today. As I said earlier on in the session, as much as we're going to look at Google Chrome and Microsoft Edge today, we do work across all platforms. So we work in Chrome, Edge, we have a Windows desktop application, and we also work on iOS. And it's important to know that the support with Read&Write doesn't have to stop when the school day ends. As long as your students are accessing Read&Write at home with their Renfrewshire credentials, they can get that free access to the software. And it is important that they're using the Renfrewshire details, because if they're trying to sign in with a personal account at home, it's not going to register that they're attached to the Renfrewshire licence. But if you do need any support with that, then please feel free to let me know. I'm just noticing there, is my camera and video feed a wee bit laggy there, Ross? I don't know if that's something I can just see in my side.
It seems to be. I mean, it's a little bit of lag, Emma. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have picked up on it if I'm being honest, but
okay,
I'll let you know.
No worries. If it starts causing an issue or anything, please feel free to let me know and I can pop out of the call and pop back in. I just noticed it there when I glanced across, but just let me know if it becomes an issue. Okie dokie. So the best way to see this in action is to start exploring the toolbar for real. If you do have a device in front of you, wherever you're watching this from, and you do have access to Read&Write for Google Chrome toolbar, please feel free to load up a Google Doc that you have and play about with the tools as I move through. For some people, it really helps to get hands-on. So if you do wish to do that on your side of things, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to come out of my slides just now, and I am just going to switch across to a Google Doc. So I've got a document here all about volcanoes, something that we might look at if we were delivering a topic on natural disasters. And for now, I'm actually going to close my Read&Write for Google Chrome toolbar, because the first thing we're going to have a look at is how your pupils and yourself can open and find this toolbar. So we are looking for the usual purple puzzle piece extension with RW on it. That is a Read&Write for Google Chrome icon. If it is not immediately visible in the top right-hand corner of your Google Chrome browser, it is likely to be sitting underneath the black and white jigsaw piece icon, which is the Google Chrome extensions menu. So when you do click on that, it will show you all the extensions that you have available. And a helpful wee tip, and I always got the kids in my class to do this so that once they did it once, it was always there. You can pin it to the taskbar in Google Chrome. So right now I've already got it pinned, so I'm going to unpin it and show you that it's disappeared. So I can go in this list, click pin, and it's going to make sure that no matter what Chromebook device the children go on to, Read&Write is always there and it's ready to go. So now that I've pinned it, I know what the icon looks like. I can tap on it and you'll get your toolbar there. I do find in Chromebooks sometimes you do get a tab that drops down with the Read&Write icon, which is extra helpful for pupils. So if you do, they're just tapping on that and that's even easier for them. But we've got our Google Chrome toolbar here. So if you have attended the other sessions, you will have seen the Windows desktop toolbar, which appears right along the top of the screen and does visually look a bit different. However, it's got a lot of the same tools built within it. It just looks slightly different on Google Chrome. So we've got our volcanoes text in front of us and we want the child to read that text. And if they do have a barrier when it comes to reading, text-to-speech is going to be the first key tool that removes that barrier for them. So hopefully you'll be able to hear my audio on your side, but we're just tapping in the document, making sure my cursor is wherever I want to hear it read aloud, and I can go up to the toolbar and press play.
A volcano is a conical hill or mountain formed by material from the mantle being forced through an opening or vent in the Earth's crust.
And I can press stop in the toolbar whenever I am happy with what I've heard read aloud. You'll have seen that anything that is read aloud with text-to-speech will appear with our dual colour highlighting. So the sentence will be highlighted in yellow and each individual word that is read is going to be highlighted in blue. And that's to support learners in tracking the text as it's being read aloud, reducing that cognitive overload as they're reading. So it kind of draws in their focus to just the sentence that is being read aloud. We can fully customize the voice and the audio feedback that they're getting from text-to-speech by popping up to the 3 dots on the Read&Write for Google Chrome toolbar and selecting settings. So this is where all of your settings customizations will happen for Read&Write. At the moment, I'm going to pop into speech and I'm going to select a voice from the box. I can pick any of these in the list. It's quite an extensive list, which is great. If you do spot a voice that has the little cluster of stars next to it, that means it's an AI enhanced voice. And what that means is the voice is going to be a bit more realistic, a bit more like a real person reading the text aloud. So a lot of pupils we are finding are quite liking the AI enhanced voices because it does sound that wee bit more realistic. But indeed there are different accents, different voices to choose from. We have some Scottish voices built into our options as well. Okay, once I'm happy with a voice, I can pop back out to speech using the backwards arrow, and I can use the toggle button to amend the speed, because if it's reading too fast or too slow, the voice might be right for them, but the actual comprehension and understanding isn't going to be there. So it's important that they get the speed right as well. The last speech setting I'd love to draw your attention to is the continuous reading option. So currently it is not ticked. If you tick that option, when the student presses play on the text, it will read and read and read all of the content until they physically intervene and press stop, which is excellent if your students are happy for it to move at that kind of continuous pace and they are understanding it. But if you do have learners that maybe need that opportunity to hear a sentence, stop, have a pause in order to fully process what the sentence was saying, and then make the decision, you know, am I ready to move on to the next sentence, or do I need to hear this another few times? If you have a learner where that is the case, you would want to leave that unticked so that after I have heard a sentence like this.
Volcanoes can be found in many different areas of the world.
Because I don't have continuous reading set up, it has stopped the text. I could have a think, do I need to hear that again? And if I do, I can press play and have it repeated as many times as I need to. So it's just something to consider, sort of tweaking it to what would work best for your learners in terms of pace and processing and understanding. Moving on from text to speech, just because the child has heard the text aloud doesn't mean they necessarily understand it. So we can pop up to our inbuilt dictionaries. First, we can click on the open book icon, which is our dictionary. And if I was to double click on conical, it is going to provide me with a play button next to the word in the definition, so I can listen to what the word is. So I'm getting that audio feedback. I'm able to engage with it with some independence. And I can also press play next to the definition. And that audio dictionary is going to read it out with the dual colour highlighting too. So again, if you've maybe got a dyslexic learner who needs that support with word tracking, they're going to be able to get that within the dictionary. So I'll press play just now.
Adjective, relating to or resembling a cone, conical mountains.
And I can click stop when I've heard that definition. To provide some extra comprehension support, I can open our picture dictionary. And because I already have the word conical selected, it is going to show me the visual representation of that word. And I can click and drag that visual in case I need it. Okay, and that can serve as that ongoing visual reminder of what that word means if the child does need to refer back to it at any point. What I like about the dictionaries is they can stay open the entire time the child is working through the task, and then when they are ready to, say, double click on a new word like states, it's going to give me the different definitions I can listen to, and it's going to automatically refresh with the visuals too. Again, I could move on to the word extinct. I'm going to get a visual for that. I'm just tapping on the new word. I don't even need to fully highlight it actually. I can just click on the word and it will automatically refresh with the updated definitions and visuals. So really good for just creating that independence and confidence when exploring new or tricky vocabulary. So I'm going to close those down just now. And moving on from there, but we're still staying on the theme of reading, we're going to think about those learners who maybe do have dyslexia or who would just struggle with the bright white background and the black text on top. Potentially, if they do experience kind of visual stress when looking at a screen, we can apply the screen masking tool, which is the digital version of a physical coloured overlay. We can click on screen masking and apply your coloured overlay to the whole screen, which is fantastic. Right now I've got it set up with a blue tinted background and a yellow reading light across the whole document, but that can be fully customized to meet the needs of the individual learner. We could go back into settings the traditional way in your settings there, but screen masking does provide you with this smaller toolbar, which is a bit of a shortcut straight to the screen masking settings when you click the settings cog. So it's given us a shortcut straight to here where I can start to play about with the background colour, see what would work best for me, and I can pop across to reading light and again make any tweaks to that until I find a colour combination that works best for me. The toggle buttons are going to allow us to change how intense these colours are. So some students may want to make the background tint quite intense and sort of block out a lot of the text so that maybe they're only seeing what's in the reading light, which helps to reduce that overwhelm. Or they might just want a subtle tint, but we can also change the intensity of the reading light as well. Another setting I like within the screen masking settings is the ability to change the height of the reading light. So if the child can cope with seeing a full paragraph at one time, they can increase the size, or if they would rather focus on one sentence at a time, we can reduce the toggle button down. There's also the option to untick this box and remove the reading light completely if it's not something the learner wants. But I've made my changes, and now if I'm engaging with the text, I'm just focusing in on one sentence at a time. And this works in conjunction with all of your other tools. So you can have your dictionaries open, looking at the word conical, you can be using text-to-speech to read out the text.
Volcanoes can be found in many different areas of the world.
Okay, so even though you've got your screen mask applied, your other tools are still going to work, which is excellent. I'm just going to click on this wee visual and remove it there. Okay, so a little pause there so far. We have looked at text to speech. We've explored in the settings how we can change the voice, we can increase or decrease the speed, we can turn on or off the option for continuous reading. We've seen how our audio and picture dictionary can help build independence and confidence when exploring vocabulary. And we have had a look at how our screen masking tool is going to apply that coloured overlay that some students might need in order to make this text more accessible. So moving along, we're going to think about our learners who maybe have English as an additional language, and we're going to look at our inbuilt translation tool. Now, where this translation tool is fantastic is you're going to get really instant live translation updates, and our inbuilt translation here can cope with multiple paragraphs of text, which is fantastic. So when we click on Translator, you're going to have this pop-up box appear, and you just need to do a little bit of setup with the languages before you start translating. So in the first drop-down box, you're going to pick your starting language, which right now is going to be English for me. And I'm choosing to translate to Romanian at the moment. Now, I am only on one word just now, so it's given me a one-word translation. But if I was to highlight multiple paragraphs, I'm going to get an instant translation into Romanian here with the option to play all of the individual paragraphs, and you're going to get the dual colour highlighting in this box too. So let's give this a go.
Ce este un vulcan? Un vulcan este un deal sau un munte conic formată din material din manta fiind forțat printr-o deschidere. Vulcanii se găsesc în trei.
So I can play on any individual paragraph there. But what is excellent as well is we don't have to always start in English. So down here, I do have a Spanish section of text. So if I wanted to translate that back to English, I just need to make sure that in the first box, I'm changing it from Spanish to English, or I don't need to translate to English. I could translate to any other language too, but in this instance, I would like to see what this means in English. So now that I've tweaked the starting and translation language, I can highlight this, and it's going to give me the English translation that again I can listen to with that dual colour highlighting. Okay, so in that way, we're making the classroom really, really inclusive for these learners who might even arrive to our classrooms with no English at all. They're going to want to learn about volcanoes the same as the rest of the class, so we can still assign them this text and allow them to move between the home language and the target language. So in that way, we're not always worrying about, having to translate, just one word at a time. We can take this whole text and move between home and target language. So fantastic tool that is worth a try for your EAL learners and even in your modern languages lessons as well. Okay, moving along the toolbar now, we are going to have a little look at our highlighters. So we've got 4 coloured highlighters built within the toolbar, where at their basic use, they will highlight individual words or phrases or sentences, but we can take our highlights a wee bit further from there.
It's fine, yeah.
Oh, is anyone who's got their mic on able to just pop it on mute for me, please? That'd be super, thank you so much. So as I was saying, we can highlight individual words or we can highlight full paragraphs, phrases, but then we've got a couple of extra tools that help us to take our highlights a bit further. So I'm going to start first of all by highlighting individual pieces of vocabulary. So this is going to be beneficial if you're wanting children to be picking out maybe new vocabulary or specific bits of terminology and exploring them in a bit more detail. And again, with independence and using the scaffolds within Read and Write to help them explore it confidently. So I might select conical. I'm just picking any colour here. You might have your own kind of colour system that you might want to use, but here I'm quite happy to pick one particular colour. Again, maybe I'm going to look in a bit more detail here. I'm just picking a few words here. And after I've highlighted individual bits of vocabulary, I'm going to go across to our vocabulary list, which is a kind of bullet pointed list in the toolbar. That is going to ask me, what colours do you want to collect? Now, I'm happy to collect any colour here, but you might have some instances maybe where you've asked the pupils to highlight all the nouns in blue and all the adjectives in green, and you maybe want to just collect the adjectives into a separate document. There will be use cases where you maybe want to untick certain colours and only pull in certain things, but I'm happy for it to collect everything. Now, the first time you click OK, it might pop up and ask your pupils to just confirm their Google account. That is okay. It's just asking for permission to save this new document straight into their Google Drive so they don't have to worry about manually saving. It's going to automatically push it into their Google Drive. So when you click on vocabulary list, it's going to create this document for your learners and for you as a teacher if you want to make them in advance. It's going to bring in the word you highlighted. It will provide definitions from our dictionary, and it will bring in the picture representation from the picture dictionary too, and leave a space for notes. So within the classroom, I have used it both as a teaching tool and as a learner tool. So as a teaching tool, in advance, maybe we've been learning about volcanoes all week and I know that I want the children to write an information report on the Friday about it. I might produce one of these in advance and share it with the learners and say, we have been learning about volcanoes all week. Here is some of the key vocabulary we've covered in class. I would like and expect to see them in your information report. So use the notes section to kind of flesh out or plan how you're going to include that in the information report, maybe write some example sentences or map out how you're going to include that. But alternatively, if the children are exploring maybe a fiction or non-fiction text, you could ask them to highlight any specific pieces of vocabulary that are maybe new or unfamiliar to them. Get them to create a vocabulary list where they can look at the dictionary meaning, look at that picture representation, and they could be using the notes area to demonstrate their new understanding of this word. So maybe use the word in your own sentence, maybe use it in a different context, explain in your own words what that word means. So there's a couple of different use cases, but what I love is that once you've highlighted your words, it's just one click, and it's going to automatically create that document that saves straight into the Google Drive. It's a good studying tool as well if you do have bits of vocabulary and you do have secondary students and you're wanting them to revise specific pieces of terminology. I can easily exit out of this by clicking the X because I know that it has saved to my Google Drive without me doing anything. To get rid of my highlights, I'm just going to select my text and click on the brush icon. I'm going to stick with my highlighters just now because I would really like to show you the collect highlights function. So this is excellent for web research and also for studying. Up until really recently, our collect highlights button would only allow you to collect highlights from one location at a time. So I could maybe only pull in highlights from just this Google document. And if I wanted to pull in highlights from a web page, that would end up being created in a completely new document. But Collect Highlights has been through an exciting new update where now I can pull in highlights from multiple locations and pull them into one location. There's just one settings tweak you need to do to ensure that it will pull from multiple locations. So if I pop across to my three dots, back into my settings, and this time I'm making sure I am under general settings. I can go down to collect highlights options. Yours may by default be on simple, which is only going to collect from your current document or your current web page. But if you select advanced, it's going to allow you to collect from multiple pages. So let's see that in action. So I've got my Google Doc just now, and I do have a web page here about volcanoes. So let's pull information from these two locations into the one document. So let's highlight this bit about volcanoes being found in 3 states. I'm maybe going to go for a yellow highlight this time. Then I'll maybe go down, explore a bit more about shield volcanoes. I don't have to choose the same colour. I could pick a different colour. And let's flip across to my web page just now. Now, if you do go onto a web page and the Read&Write toolbar doesn't automatically appear for you, you just click on the purple icon and the toolbar will load. But let's highlight a bit more about composite volcanoes, and let's maybe highlight this bit about shield volcanoes, and I can and maybe the student would want to compare it to what came up in the Google Doc. Again, I'll maybe go for pink for that. Okay, now what I can do, so I've made some highlights in this document and I've made some highlights on my web page. Now, when I click on Collect Highlights, which is the circle of arrows going around, when I click on that, it's going to open a side panel for me. Okay, I might actually flip over to my document because I've got a lot of adverts and things in the way. So I'm just back in my document. I'm going to open my side panel. So it's showing me the 2 paragraphs I highlighted from the web page, and it's showing me what I've highlighted from my Google Doc as well. It has also remembered the pieces of vocabulary I highlighted for my vocabulary list. If I don't want them, I can tap on the 3 dots and just delete them to get them out the way. So even if they highlight something by mistake, they can easily click on the 3 dots and remove them. There we go. So I'm happy. I've got my 2 web page paragraphs and my 2 document paragraphs. I can filter by colour and choose to only pull in certain pieces of information. For example, if I wanted to highlight quotes or descriptions just about one character from a novel, I could do all that in yellow and maybe just pull them into a separate document. But I'm happy to pull everything in by saving to docs. And again, first time you do that, it's probably going to ask permission to save this to your Google Drive. You're just selecting yes for that. And here is what gets produced. So you're getting a brand new document with just the information that you highlighted. But as an added bonus, you're going to get the links back to where you got the information from. So quite often, again, I'm from a primary classroom. I would do web research with pupils and they've found some good information, but they maybe forget where they got it from. So if they do need to revisit the website, they're not sure where they got it from, they can't remember, they didn't maybe note the website down, or indeed I as a teacher want to make sure that it's a sort of valid, reputable source that they're getting their information from. It's really helpful to have these source links, and it's also reinforcing and supporting you with that benchmark that's within the curriculum of making sure we're talking about sources and where we're getting our information from. It's reinforcing the need to be tracking, well, where did you get that from? And reviewing the sort of reliability of that. So this document, again, has automatically saved to their Google Drive so they can access it at any time, or indeed they could just click the share button and share it directly with you. And again, they can edit, they can use their usual tools by clicking on certain pieces of vocabulary. Any Google Doc at all, these tools are going to work on. I'm going to click the X in the top right hand corner because I know it has saved. I'm just going to close my collect highlights toolbar, and you know what, I'm going to click Control A and click the brush to just remove all of my highlights. I'm going to look at the writing tools within Read&Write shortly, but what I want to do first is just show you a couple of the extra tools that you get when you're using Read&Write on a web page. Now, right now we're on a Google Doc, so we do get lots and lots of tools, but when you're on a web page, you're going to get a couple of extra ones that just make web browsing that bit easier and more inclusive for learners. So I'm going to swap over. And I have, now I'm just going to close my collect highlights area. I'm going to open my toolbar by clicking on my purple puzzle piece. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to do Control F there, sorry, Control A. I'm just going to get rid of these highlights just now, just so I'm starting fresh. Now, I have deliberately chosen this web page because the layout is really overstimulating. It's got adverts everywhere, links that you really don't want children to be clicking on, lots of distractions. It's extremely overwhelming. And I found in the primary classroom, this was what a lot of articles were like when I was trying to get kids to research. And before you know it, they've clicked on something, oh, that looks interesting. They've clicked here and they're on some website that I really don't want them to be on, and they're distracted from actually looking at the text that I need them to see. So I picked this deliberately because I'm going to show you a tool within the toolbar that is going to strip away all of these distractions and just leave the students with the text that I need them to look at. And it's just going to reduce that mental drain and that cognitive overload when they're trying to research online. So the tool that you get, and you don't get this in Google Docs, this is just a web page tool. It's this one here, the horizontal lines and the downward arrow, which is the simplify page option. So when I click on that, it is going to push the article into a brand new tab, strip away all the nonsense, the distractions, the cookie notifications, the social media links, which again is something I really don't want kids clicking on, and you're left with this. It's the same content that was on that web page. Let's flick back and remind ourselves what it looked like before. Really overcrowded with lots of distractions. But now in our Simplify tab, we just have the article. Now we can still use, I know I keep saying this, but it's important to know, even if you're moving into a new tab, you can still use all of your tools. You can translate as well. So I can say have this English to Spanish. I can highlight some of this text. And it's going to pull it in for me, so I can translate this too. I can make highlights, I can produce vocabulary lists, I can use my dictionaries. Again, I can be clicking on certain words. I'm just moving through certain ones here. You know, words that we might not be sure of. We can be clicking on them, interacting with the dictionaries, but you do get this extra toolbar that drops down here, just to make this web page even more accessible, because we know how difficult web pages can be to access. We can change the way it visually appears, so we can turn it to white on black, blue on yellow, yellow on blue. Those combinations are going to be particularly beneficial for your dyslexic learners. We can change the font size. We also have Open Dyslexic font built in here, which is an added bonus. We can change the spacing, but we can also press this simplify minus button, which is going to reduce the content down and make it a bit more concise. So if you do have a really, really long web page, you can continue to reduce it down. So it's a wee bit more manageable amount for your pupils. So in that way you're kind of differentiating or allowing the children to reduce it to an amount that they are going to be able to interact with. So that's a great tool for making that web page more accessible. But moving back, and this tool will also apply in that Simplify tab, but I want to show it on the regular web page. Because this is a website, the way we would use text-to-speech in a Google Doc is we would normally tap into the document and just press play. But because this isn't my content, I can't really click my cursor anywhere here. So the children would have to manually highlight and press play, which they can do, but we know particularly for primary learners, some kids find it really hard using the manual trackpad to highlight. So we do have an extra tool called Hover Speech. Now, this is a really loud, chatty tool because the minute you activate it, anything you drag your cursor over, it's going to read it aloud. So if they turn it on and they're moving it all over the place, it is going to read things out, but it just takes a wee bit of training for them to understand that once I turn this on and it's purple, it's ready to start reading things out. So if I drag my cursor down and let go, it's going to read it out.
Composite volcanoes, sometimes known as stratovolcanoes.
And I'm going to move my cursor and let go, and it'll immediately switch.
A pyroclastic flow can travel down the side of a volcano at very shield volcanoes.
Okay. So anything I put my cursor over, it's going to automatically read out, but it really does remove an extra step for pupils when they're on a web page. It allows them just to hear that audio so much quicker and remove that sort of extra manual process. When they're done, they can click stop, but it's important to teach them as long as Hover Speech is purple, it's still activated and you're not going to get the rest of your tools back until you manually turn that back off. So that's your 2 extra tools you get in a web page. You're going to get Hover Speech to automatically read text out when you hover over it, and you're going to get that great Simplify tool to remove all these distractions and just leave you with the text that you want the kids to interact with. So again, if you do have secondary learners as well, a great tool if they're going to be doing a lot of studying online, just strip away all the distractions and leave them with the content that they need to revise. Okay, I'm going to move back to my Google Doc just now, and I'm going to show you a couple of the great writing tools that are going to support your learners when it comes to writing pieces. And then we're going to flip across to Microsoft Edge. Now, I've spent so long in Google Chrome, and you might be wondering, we're not really leaving a lot of time for Microsoft Edge, but the beauty is that in Microsoft Edge, it's pretty much an identical experience. You get almost every single tool, it looks the same, it interacts the same, but I do just want to show you accessing it within Microsoft Edge. So you're getting pretty much an identical experience, so please be reassured of that. So I'm going to give myself some space here because I'm going to be using our prediction tool, which is the thought bubble icon, second from the left on the toolbar. Now, when I tap on prediction, it is going to provide me with a list of suggestions that I can pick from in order to build a sentence. So it's so beneficial for learners who maybe struggle a bit with working memory. They maybe have some ideas of what they want to write about, but once they start putting pencil to paper, they maybe lose their train of thought and they can get quite frustrated or anxious because they're maybe struggling to get what they're trying to say down onto the paper. But prediction is here to support with that. So before I launch it, I just want to draw your attention to some prediction settings that you can engage with to really tailor it for your learners. So I'm going to pop into the 3 dots and into settings. Apologies if you can hear my dog in the background. The postman always comes when I'm in the middle of a training session, so apologies for that. I'm going to click on prediction. And the first thing I can do is I can change the number of results. So it can go all the way down to 3, which would be great if you do have a learner who maybe would be overwhelmed with too many choices. and it can go all the way up to 10 results as well. So sometimes it'll also be dictated by the size of the screen that the students are working with. I do tend to find 7 or 8 is quite an effective number, but play about with it, see what's best. And there is an extra option here to read the prediction suggestions when we hover over them. So if you've got a learner who, if we just give them a list of words, they're going to struggle to read that and choose a word that is going to benefit their sentence, you might want to turn that on so that when they are hovering over the suggestions, it's going to read them out. And maybe that audio feedback is going to allow them to choose the word with a bit more independence and confidence. It's something to think about. I'm going to leave it off for the purpose of a demo because it's going to be talking over me and I'm going to be talking over it. So I'm going to untick it, but I just wanted to point out where it is. So I am going to turn on prediction and then I can start picking suggestions. So I'm going to pick volcanoes. So it's got a good sentence starter there. And B, again, I could go for found here. Found in, I would like many. So I've typed many. There we go. Many. Now, again, I was going to say different, but I could go for countries here. Oh, and I have accidentally clicked it, so that's fine. In the world. Okay, so a basic sentence here, but it's just to show the process. So if students were struggling to kind of get that idea down, they can be pressing on the options to help them along their way. But for some learners, they may need a bit more support than that. They may need the option to verbally dictate their ideas and have them appear within the document. And that is where our talk and type function can step in. So that's going to allow them to press on the microphone and they can say their sentence aloud and it will dictate it for them. And then they can engage with tools like text to speech to listen to their work back and check that it makes sense and it's picked them up correctly. So I'm going to press on the microphone and we'll give this a go. Volcanoes can be found in many different areas of the world, full stop. Okay, so I'm just making sure that when I'm done, I'm turning talk and type back off, because then if I start talking to someone next to me, it's going to dictate that as well. Now that I have dictated my sentence, I would be going up to text to speech to listen to it back.
Volcanoes can be found in many different areas of the world.
I'm happy, it's picked me up correctly. I could then practice my next sentence, and when I'm ready, I can click on the microphone and dictate that in as well. Okay, so that is the main tools in Google Chrome we're going to cover today. There are more that I haven't explored, but the follow-up resources that are within the slides will allow you to look at all of the tools in the toolbar, because there might be some in there that are more applicable to your learners and you would like a look at them, and that's totally fine. But I'm going to move across to my Microsoft Edge browser and just show you this in action too. So all I did there was I was in Google Chrome, and all I've done is move through to Microsoft Edge. So again, I'm looking for the purple puzzle piece in the top right-hand corner. As before, if it's not there, you're popping into the black and white jigsaw piece and having a look at your available extensions. And again, I'm going to unpin it, but I can repin it to my taskbar. So it's worthwhile doing that. And then I can click on Read and Write. As you can see, the toolbar looks the same as we did in Google Chrome. It's going to interact the same. The only tool you don't have here is we've got a spell check function that is not compatible with Microsoft Edge at the moment, so it does not appear within the toolbar, but that's the only tool there that you don't have when you're working within a document. So again, I can press play.
A volcano is a conical hill or mountain formed by material from the mantle being...
So it read that word, it read as a wee bit strangely there, but that's a wee bit of an anomaly. Don't worry about that, give it a wee try yourself. We've got our screen masking tool, we've got all the same functions, and that is the only difference really. You just don't have the check it function at the very start of the toolbar. and that is Read and Write for Google Chrome and Edge. I'm just going to show you one bonus tool because I do have a bit more time than I was expecting. So this can be used in primary and secondary. Probably from a study perspective, it's really beneficial for secondary learners when it comes to revising for tests and exams. We can turn any text into an audio file. So if you do have students who are going to really struggle to revise from lengthy written notes, we can highlight paragraphs of information and we can click on Audio Maker. And it's going to give you a kind of loading bar and tell you that it's producing an audio file. It will appear up in the top right hand corner and we can click on it and listen to what we've produced.
What is a volcano? A volcano is a conical hill or mountain formed by material.
Hopefully you can hear that okay. I could push that into my Google Drive, my OneDrive, listen to my revision notes on the go at home as many times as I need to. From a primary perspective, while my students weren't revising for formal examinations, I have had students use it. I had one particular student who had dyslexia and had autism as well, and he found it really, really hard to kind of practice poems or show lines. So we turned them into audio files, and that way he was able to take on a role in the show because he had listened to his lines and memorized them off by heart. So just a couple of use cases for Audio Maker there. I'm going to pop back to my slides and just show this next step slide. So we've got a range of resources that you can pick up and go with to support implementation in your classroom. In the staff training, we've got a wee quick look video. It's about 6 minutes long. That's great if you do have any staff in your school who are maybe thinking about starting to use it, but they've maybe not managed to come along to a training session and want to know a wee bit of what Read and Write is about. We have our interactive toolbar that you can click along and look at some of the individual tools. We've got a quick reference guide and a more in-depth training guide because I know some staff really like to see it all broken down in a physical document. For pupil resources, we do have our feature focus videos. So for every tool in the toolbar, there's a kind of 2, 3, 4 minute video per tool. As a teacher, you could pop these up on your classroom screen, press play, and it will teach them how to use that tool. And the idea is that all you need to do is the crowd control after that. If you want to introduce this on Google Chrome to learners in a lesson format, this recorded lesson has been designed specifically for primary, but you can load up that lesson on your screen and that will take them through a full lesson format, teaching them how to use the toolbar. And we also have our Using Read and Write at Home guide designed for parents and carers. So schools can share this with families and that will support them on how to get started with Read and Write at home, including how to download the software and how to get all logged in. And there's a wee extra slide with some diagrams because I know some schools like to print out these diagrams and maybe have them up on display to remind students of what each tool does. So they are included in the slides as well. And hopefully I've not fried everyone's brain too much. I know that is a lot of information, but I just wanted to cover as many tools within the toolbar as I possibly could. And you can refer back to the recording if you do need a breather just now and you want to refresh your memory on any that we covered. But would love to hear if you've got any feedback, what you think about it, and any questions at all. It would be great to hear them as well. Thank you so much for having me today. Thoroughly enjoyed the session.